Angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology. Conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
The Apostle John wrote that at some point in the future, something would fall from heaven and turn the waters of the earth bitter. Watch this.
I intend to share undisclosed facts that are stranger and scarier than most people can comprehend, and it is going to shake the public to the bone. And yes, this involves a cover-up of the highest order by national space agencies, including NASA.
The asteroid is 100% certain to strike Earth, according to one space expert who says this is a matter of life and death.
You'd probably have millions of casualties.
Is a planet-killing asteroid a possibility? NASA has determined that the threat is real.
And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And many men died of the waters.
Chief technology experts and working scientists agree with me. But what's more concerning is that this was prophesied in the Bible for the end times.
Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. It's a special program as we kick off a series of 4 programs about a brand new book from the best-selling author, CEO of Skywatch TV, Dr. Thomas Horn. The book, The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a Cosmic Cover-Up of End-Time Proportions. Joining me on the panel to discuss this over the next several weeks, my best friend, co-author of our new book, Veneration, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie.
And the author of the book, the aforementioned Dr. Thomas Horn. Tom, welcome back.
Great to be here.
The Wormwood Prophecy, what is the connection? And I know that there's some things that you can't reveal yet on this program, but what is the connection between Wormwood, which is the prophesied star that falls from heaven or mountain burnt that falls in Revelation, and chaos?
Yeah, well, let's get to that in a moment.
Okay, all right.
But first, let me start by saying that for a while, Charisma has wanted to publish a book by me, because people are going to wonder why in the world with us owning Defender Publishing.
That's right. That's why I didn't mention CEO of Defender Publishing, because, okay, yes, why is this not a Defender book? Why is this a Charisma book?
Yeah, and anyway, long story short, Steve Strang, Steve owns, Charisma and is the CEO of several other operations, the publishing house, the magazine, all that. We were on the phone. But we were talking about, what is my next project? And I said, I am feverishly working on a book that right now I'm only calling Wormwood. I started sharing some things with him. And then he emailed me 3-4 hours later. And he said, odd. He said, I searched through Google, I searched through Amazon. I cannot find a single book on the Wormwood prophecy that has been written from a conservative Christian point of view. Now, of course, there could have been something in antiquity. We know that the early church fathers, had their ideas about Wormwood, and we're going to get into some of those as these weeks transpire. But that was the same thing. I went to just Amazon and looked up Wormwood. The only thing I could find over there was a New Age book where a guy was tying it to Nibiru or Nibiru, whatever you call it, and the Mayan prophecies and just a whole bunch of gobbledygook. But I couldn't find anything. So that was a point of interest to me. And as we're doing these programs, this is really coming out of Revelation 8:10 through 11 that says, "And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter." So we're going to kind of walk around, what is that text actually talking about, what the early church fathers believe, what people like Dr. Michael Heiser believes, what I personally believe. But let me say, this all started with something for me that is more metaphysical. I don't think I have ever talked about this on Skywatch TV. I've only spoke of it privately with my family on a couple of occasions, and then one time I hinted at it on one of Sid Roth's It's Supernatural. And it's an event that happened to me many years ago now when I was just a young Christian and was just so passionate. I mean, just every day literally begging God to let me be in the ministry, right? Just feeling that, when you're called into the ministry before you even know what's going to happen or what it means, but the zeal of the Lord hath eaten me up. You just have that passion in your heart. And so I was, at that time, just praying every single day. And I came home one night and went to bed. The next thing I know, and this was very vivid, this was not like, I had a dream. This was something different. As so far as I knew, this was actually happening. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't really even quite know what was going on. But I was standing in something very brilliant. In my mind, I'm thinking this is like a throne, right? Like the prophets may have described the throne of God, right? Just absolutely brilliant. Somehow I also knew in my mind that I was standing before God. And I was saying something. And as I listened to myself, right, what I was saying was, please, don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. And somehow I knew that he had told me I was going to forget whatever it was he had told me. It just didn't make any sense at all, right? And I'm begging, please don't let me forget. And all of a sudden, I start falling. Like I've jumped out of an airplane without a parachute, right? And my back is beneath me. And I'm literally falling. And I can see all of this and the sky, everything moving away from me very rapidly, right? And I'm falling. All of a sudden, I see the roof of my house go, and it went right around me. And I fell on the bed, right? I felt myself physically hit the bed. And immediately, now I'm awake. And immediately, I sat up in bed and I breathed in real deeply. Like that. And then I hear my wife, and she's bawling her head off. Now, I'm awake now, right? And I look over at my young wife, Nita, and she is, her face is just, her hands in her face, and she is bawling. And I'm like, what's going on? What's the matter? What's happening? And it really took her a few minutes to collect herself, right? And then she explained to me that she had woke up in the middle of the night and I was dead. Now, this wasn't just she poked me and I didn't move. This was her spending probably 10 full minutes trying to resuscitate me. She doesn't know how to do it. She's beating on my chest. I have no pulse. I'm cold, actually, to the touch. I'm not breathing. She puts her ear down to my mouth. She can't hear me breathing. I'm just not there, right? This is what she was doing while I was somewhere else. And then when I woke up, it took her a moment for her to collect herself. Now, fast forward so I don't go into every detail, but the next day, I go and see my pastor. And I tell him all about it because I'm a young Christian. I don't even have no idea what this means, right? And his response, well, let's just say that his response was the definition of the New Testament, not to cast your pearls before swine, not saying that my pastor is a pig at the time, right? But that he totally did not get the idea of something supernatural, right? He just thought I ate too much chili or something before I went to bed. So as a young Christian, I immediately then put up this wall where I am just not going to share this with anybody else, because whatever it was, for me, it was more real than this matrix that we live in here. And I didn't know how anybody would understand it. And really what I needed was an answer. It just did not make any sense to me at all. Why would God, right, tell you something and then say, but you're not going to remember? What is the point in that, right? I just didn't get it. And every day I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying. And I want to show you. For the very first time in my life as a young Christian, I was reading through the Bible. I'd never read it. Well, I'd hardly read any of it, right? And so I'm reading through the Bible. This is maybe 2 to 3 weeks later. I'm still praying about this every day. What did that all mean? And I came upon this scripture. So this is Job 33, starting at verse 14, and it says this: For God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceives it not. Verse 15, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he opens the ears of men, and sealeth their instructions, that he may withdraw man from his purpose, and hide pride from man. And I'm telling you that, the difference between Logos and Rhema. When I read that day, and I knew nothing about theology or scripture, I knew nothing. When I read that, my mind was so open so quickly, and I instantly got it. That God had sealed within me during the night, in deep sleep and slumbering upon the bed, instructions that were going to serve some kind of a purpose. But why would he not let me remember? That he may withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. And I immediately got that, even as just a baby Christian, right? That if I had known where someday I would be, first of all, I would not have taken the course that I needed to take, right?
Right.
For all the hard times, the struggles, for everything that hones us, right, as believers. The stuff we don't really want to go through, but later on in life you look back and you realize you really needed to go through those trying times, because it defines your character. It makes you who you are. If I had known that someday we'd be doing television, speaking at people's conferences, publishing books, doing all this stuff, what would I have done? I would have aimed at it.
Yes.
And I would have set my focus on it, and I would have been doing everything to make that happen, right? But God wouldn't let me remember. Why? Because he wants to withdraw man from his purpose. The second thing, that he might hide pride from man, because as a very young Christian, had I seen myself, the stuff I do today, and I don't think about it, it doesn't affect my pride. I don't think of, myself as anything. But back then, I might have been tempted.
Sure.
And then that could have ruined everything that God wanted to happen. Okay, I said all that to say this. There have been a few times in my life, and my son Joe, who's standing off camera over here, could verify this, in which something odd happens. And it's always in the middle of the night. In fact, what's strange, maybe you could explain what this means, it's almost always around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I will be, again, in the most vivid kind of dream. These are more like, a full-on theatrical, Hollywood-level film in terms of the graphics and the three-dimensionality, the colors and stuff that we're not supposed to have in dreams, right? This has happened a few times in my life. Joe will tell you that when we were getting ready to move here, right, to do everything we're doing here today from Oregon, and I resigned from the Assemblies of God. Something happened. I woke up in the middle of the night. I jumped up. I wrote down all these notes. And the same morning, I sent an email to the state superintendent for the Oregon District Assemblies of God, giving him a list, a whole detailed list of a whole list of things that were going to happen. Now, recently, Joe found that old letter that I sent to him and read it, and he came to me just ashen-faced. He said, "Oh my gosh, Dad." He said, "You absolutely nailed every one of these things that happened within 24 months, including the death of a young man." Just very vivid descriptive details. Now, another example that most of the world is more familiar with, is in 2010. And the weirdest thing, of course, I was studying Petrus Romanus and all that at the time. Chris Putnam and I were working on a book, right? But in the middle of the night, I have this vivid vision. And actually what I saw were very dark clouds rising up over the Vatican, right? Now, you could say, well, it's because you're studying all this stuff. But I woke up and immediately took a paper and I wrote down Pope Benedict is going to resign in April of 2012. And if you recall, and people can go get the YouTubes and watch this, I'm on Sid Roth's show, I'm on Jim Bakker's show, I'm on Prophecy Watchers, and we didn't yet have the studio. And I'm saying, I believe that Pope Benedict XVI is going to resign. Not only that, I believe he's going to do it in April of 2012. I'm on tape in 2010 and 11 saying this, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I was getting all this feedback from especially Catholics. You don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy. Popes don't resign, right?
Yeah.
They die in office. And that had been true for something like 500 and some years, right? So here's the thing. When 2012 came, and nothing happened, for a while I was really confused because I was certain that this was going to happen exactly when I went out on a limb, right? But then 2013, what happens? It hits the news. Pope, and I remember because it was February 28th, which is my birthday. That's why I've never forgot it. February 28th, 2013, the Vatican's big announcement, Pope Benedict XVI has stepped down, right? He has resigned. But the same day, the El Observatorio Romano, which is the Vatican's news media outlet, they gave an interview with the New York Times. And in that interview, they admitted Pope Benedict actually secretly, officially resigned to the Roman Curia. Did it privately, right? And they gave the date. He did that when he returned on a trip in April 2012.
Right.
And I'm telling you what, my phone lit up, including reporters from Rome, everybody wanting to know who our insider was on that event. But the point was, and I cannot choose, and I don't consider myself a prophet or any of those kind of things. I just don't. I can't explain what this is. I really can't. But it is supernatural. And it has not failed me yet, but it don't happen when I want it to.
That's right.
I can pray and say, give me a revelation, and that just does not work. And I can't really even explain why. Why was it so important, this thing with the Pope? I don't know. Some larger cause, right? Now, why am I saying all this about, when we're doing programs on Wormwood? It was because early this year, this happened again.
Oh.
And this was the worst, most terrifying experience in terms of a dream, the most vivid in terms of a dream. And now I can't share the vision because I promised Sid Roth, right, that I would not do this until January, which I'm going to do on the It's Supernatural program. And I know we got to go to a break, but the point is this, that when I jumped out of bed, it almost knocked me. I almost fell off the bed, right? And I jumped up, and I went to start writing down a lot of the stuff that wound up in this book, The Wormwood Prophecy. Though I don't describe it as a vision in here, but like the narrative. When you're reading, I can't talk about it yet, but when you're reading about some of that stuff, that's because that's what I saw. But I don't want to say I had a vision. I wanted the book to just be about what I believe is going to happen, what I saw. But I will give this one thing away. As soon as I stood up out of bed and I went to write, it was like, I don't think somebody whispered in my ear, but that's what it felt like. It felt like somebody whispered in my ear one word, Apophis. And I only knew this has something to do with an ancient demon god of destruction. And I also knew that there was an asteroid named Apophis, but I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
More on that.
Yes, we will continue this conversation. Tom Horn's new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, will tell you how to get it from the Skywatch TV store, along with the special offer that's part of this. And when we come back, we'll talk about Apophis and why that may be relevant to Revelation chapter 8 when Skywatch TV continues. Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Please take advantage of the exclusive web-only programs that we make available every week from Skywatch TV. We've got 30-minute programs on science, Into the Multiverse, Sci Friday, programs that deal with prophecy, unraveling revelation, and, of course, daily news updates as well, only available from skywatchtv.com. We're talking with Dr. Tom Horn. Sharon K. Gilbert joins me as we discuss Tom's new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, Apophis. In my research, ancient Egyptian deity, agent of chaos, a chaos monster, chaos dragon, equated with deities in other pantheons. The Greeks called him Typhon. The ancient Sumerians called it Tiamat in the Bible. We probably know it by the name Leviathan. This was the word that you remembered after this disturbing dream vision earlier this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, again, without really giving the details of what I saw, I will tell you this much, that in this night vision, almost more of a night terror, but I knew it was a thing from God, what I first thought I was looking at was a dragon. What I first thought I was looking at was a dragon undulating, right? Moving towards the earth. Mm-hmm. I later realized the way the sun was hitting something that was turning, that it was casting the shadow on it that made it look like it was moving back and forth like a snake or a serpent, right? But so it's interesting that you bring that up, you know, that and makes you wonder if some of these occult visions from the ancients were seeing some of the same kind of thing in terms of their description. And even why, and we'll have to talk about this like on the next program, but why does NASA do this? Why do they name these near-Earth threatening space objects after these ancient deities, these ancient gods? Why do they have
a lot of names right now that relate to Egyptian mythology?
And we saw this with the asteroid called Bennu, and then the probe to go visit it was called Osiris-Rex, which was a European Space Agency probe, but they really twisted around the acronym in order to make it fit. Osiris-Rex, Osiris the king, Osiris, who's the Lord of the dead.
And Bennu is where he's supposed to be buried.
Yes, Bennu was a representation of the bird, like a phoenix-like
bird.
bird.
There was a resurrection bird, exactly.
Right. So, yeah, you'd think that in our modern scientific age, our age of reason, that scientists like those working at NASA would draw on, you know, why not name it for some of the great astronomers? Why not call it Comet Galileo or Copernicus or something like that? Why not, you know, instead of digging into pagan deities? Right.
Well, and it could be, and I'm just reaching here, trying to, you know, get into NASA's head about why you would name a space rock Apophis. But one thing we know about Apophis from mythology was this god could not be stopped. It was all powerful.
Right.
There was nothing you could do to stop whatever it wanted to happen. Is NASA, are they extending something here?
Well, Apophis was the chaos dragon that had to be fought every night. Now, back in the day, those of us who know anything at all about Set, the evil twin brother of Osiris, is that back in the days of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, in that period of Egyptian history, Set was still one of the good guys. He rode the solar boat of Ra, the sun god, every night, and when it passed over the horizon, Set was on the front of the boat to fight off Apophis, because Apophis wanted to eat the sun and return the world to the primordial chaos from which it emerged. It hated order and wanted to return the world to chaos, like Leviathan, like the god of death, Mot, like Tiamat. The Norse have a similar legend where Thor had to defeat a chaos dragon. The Hittites and Hurrians had a similar myth. The early Indian culture had a similar myth. A warrior god had to defeat this god of chaos in order to allow for the creation of life, the creation of everything on earth.
We see in Genesis 1:2 that the Spirit is hovering over essentially a chaos
the
dragon.
deep, Tehom, which is the cognate for the Sumerian Tiamat. Right. So, yeah, this is really curious that NASA would choose to give that particular name to an asteroid that has some chance of intersecting the orbit of the Earth.
Right. And
well, not the orbit of the Earth, intersecting the Earth, which is the whole point.
And in programs to come to follow this, I'm going to tell you why I believe it has more than some chance of impacting the Earth in 2029, so a little over 9 years from right now, and what that might mean in terms of prophecy. Now, we don't want to scare people. That's not what we do.
No.
But at the same time, we believe in biblical prophecy, and we know these things are shortly to come to pass according to Scripture. During this series of programs, it is also the biggest giveaway, as you saw in the commercial earlier. Well, actually, the biggest giveaway ever at Skywatch TV, over $900 in free books and products, just a ton of stuff. But this is the only one I want to mention, is the collection of ebooks on a data library that are in all of the ebook formats, so Kindle, Nook, EPUB, whatever it is that you use. Now, this is 70 of our top-selling books. This is over $700
Wow.
in ebooks all by itself. You're going to want this. If you read ebooks at all, you want this. If you know anybody in your family that likes to read ebooks on tablet or Kindle or whatever, ultimate Christmas gift, $700 in Defender Publishing's best-selling ebooks. We've never done this before. We're never going to do it again.
Wow.
But that plus hundreds of dollars in other free books, movies. So make sure this is a limited time offer. We don't know how long we're going to let it run, but certainly during these 4 programs. And of course, we're giving that away with my new book, The Wormwood Prophecy.
And just remember, whatever comes to pass, it's because God has ordained it and will allow it. More to come in the weeks ahead. Stay with us. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. With Tom Horn and Sharon K. Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert. This is Skywatch TV.
NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end times proportions. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the largest giveaway of the year, the Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway. When you order Dr. Thomas Horn's new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, from the Skywatch TV store, you'll also receive on DVD the entire 4-part Skywatch TV series on the Wormwood Prophecy, featuring Dr. Thomas Horn and Derek and Sharon Gilbert. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the never-before-released Best of Defender Publishing ebook collection on data disc, featuring 70 of the most information-packed, best-selling books in Defender history. These full-length works are in popular ebook formats, so you can read them on EPUB, PDF, Kindle, and other handheld electronic devices. Give this collection as the ultimate gift to somebody you know this holiday season, or take them with you wherever you go. Valued at over $700 all by itself. But that's not all. With the holidays just around the corner, now's your chance to save big and receive a massive collection of merchandise. Also included in the Wormwood Grand Giveaway is a gargantuan supply of brand new super quality overstock gift books, DVDs, audio sets, survival and organic living books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $900. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling. This is the largest giveaway of the year and will be available only while supplies last, so don't delay. The Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway, available now at skywatchtvstore.com. Order now or call 1-844-750-4985.
Angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology. Conspiracy. Discovery. Special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
A cover-up at the highest levels of government to conceal what could be the most explosive event in human history. Watch this.
I intend to share undisclosed facts that are stranger and scarier than most people can comprehend. and it is going to shake the public to the bone. And yes, this involves a cover-up of the highest order by national space agencies, including NASA.
The asteroid is 100% certain to strike Earth, according to one space expert who says this is a matter of life and death.
You'd probably have millions of casualties.
Is a planet-killing asteroid a possibility? NASA has determined that the threat is real.
And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And many men died of the waters.
Chief technology experts and working scientists agree with me. But what's more concerning is that this was prophesied in the Bible for the end times.
Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Joining me on the panel as we continue our discussion of a blockbuster new book. My co-author on our recent release, Veneration, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie.
And the author of this new book, which, will definitely grip you and make you think. The Wormwood Prophecy, Donald Trump, NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end-time proportions. How's that for a grabby subtitle? The author, Dr. Thomas Horn. Tom, welcome back.
Good to be here.
We had talked about Apophis last week and really didn't get too much into it, other than talking about what Apophis was to the ancient Egyptians and how it related to the religions of other ancient cultures, the chaos monster. NASA has applied that name to something that this way comes. What is Apophis, and why should we care?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Last week we talked about this fact that I had this night vision. Almost knocked me out of bed. But when it did, and again, we can't talk about what I saw because I promised Sid Roth I wouldn't until we do it on his show in January.
That's awfully gracious of you.
Yeah.
I mean, preempting your own show.
Yeah.
Your own network.
Right. Well, in any case, though, but the first thing, I jumped up, I'm going to grab a pen, I'm going to write down, but something, it's probably just in my mind. I don't mean that there was a spirit in my room, right? But something felt like it whispered in my ear one word, Apophis. Now, I didn't know what that was. I mean, I can say that I knew there was an ancient god of chaos named Apophis. Didn't know a whole lot about it, knew far less about it than you and Sharon do. And I knew that there was an asteroid that the Neowise team, NASA, had named Apophis. But again, I didn't really know anything about it. So the first thing I did that day, actually I went back to bed because I didn't want to wake Nita up. It was really early in the morning. But when I got up, I went in and turned on the computer. And I went over into Google and I start, trying to research everything I can find about the asteroid Apophis. Now, anybody could do this, but here's what I found. It was discovered in 2004. Now, originally, it really kind of was shaking some people inside the aerospace community because they concluded that this had a fairly significant chance of impacting the Earth in 2029. It's coming back around again some years after that. But then they modified their conclusions. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The diameter of this space rock is approximately 370 meters or 1,200 feet across. It weighs an estimated 20 million metric tons. It is traveling through space at 28,000 miles per hour. So if you think of something like that impacting the Earth, let's just say it's an understatement to say that that would be a mind-bending velocity impact, inertia impact on this planet, whether it hit the ground or whether it hit the sea. Now, there have been some studies that have been done in recent days, mapping studies, okay? If it impacts the Earth, where's it going to hit? One of the mapping methodologies at NASA concludes that it's going to, if it hits the Earth, it's probably going to hit around the coastlines of California and Mexico. So we're talking about super highly populated areas. If it does hit Earth, they say the impact is going to unleash a blast, the equivalent of over 1 billion tons of TNT, easily causing tens of millions, if not billions, of deaths. Some calculations show billions of deaths, and that's partly because of something we're going to talk about in a little while that we're just calling the Andromeda strain factor, but also years of climate destruction. So all of that. First, I want to say something that my investigation uncovered, including NASA and Apophis, and why I'm not alone in my conclusions, and this is in the book, all the data and all that around it, why I believe that there is a much greater chance that Apophis is going to impact Earth in 2029 and that it is being covered up. It is being obscured by NASA and the NEOWISE team. Now, it's really important for people to understand that I'm not alone in my conspiratorial thinking. For instance, in a recent peer-reviewed paper called, and so you can look this up on Google and go to the link, an empirical examination of WISE NEOWISE, Near-Earth Object Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer Asteroid Analysis and Results, right? This is by Nathan Myhrvold.
Yes.
So Nathan, you know, for a long time, he ran like the tech development side of Microsoft. And in fact, if you Google him and read all the stuff about him, you find out that he's called Bill Gates' second brain, right? All that kind of stuff. He is routinely listed in the top 100 critical scientific thinkers by numerous different peer-reviewed scientific journals. He's got 800 U.S. patents. I mean, so the guy's a brain, right? But in his article, he refutes the asteroid data from NASA, and these are his words. Now think about a guy that belongs to the astronomy community. His work was actually published by an astronomy peer-reviewed magazine, so he's in that community. And this is what he says, and if you imagine that words mean things, here's what he says. In his peer-reviewed article, he says NASA is suffering from systematic errors and inconsistencies regarding potentially deadly near-Earth objects, or NEOs. And then he goes on to say this: the very NASA managers who should have been supervising the project were more interested in protecting it from scrutiny. So we're talking now cover-up.
Wait a minute. That's the heart of science, though, is that others can scrutinize your work.
Right. He accuses them of a cover-up. And then he says this: the issues I am calling misconduct in the NEOWISE papers were not inadvertent. They appear to have been deliberate choices made repeatedly by the NEOWISE team over a long period of time. This is part of his article, or part of his paper, which have caused the astronomical community to work under the false belief that the NEOWISE results are more accurate than the evidence warrants. And then he goes on to literally charge them with manipulation and oversights.
Yeah, I'm just glancing at the abstract here. I downloaded it while you were talking, so this is easily available on the internet if you want to do a search for this. And just in the abstract, he's using words like results are of poor quality, frequently missing most or all of the data points on which they are based, assumptions that are in many cases inconsistent with each other. You cannot base accurate results when your assumptions are wrong and when the results you're getting don't fit the data points that you've observed.
And in the world of science, you have to put your data down so that it can be reproduced and scrutinized. That's the whole point of peer review.
So what is Dr. Myhrvold's conclusion then? I mean, why would they be doing this?
Well, his conclusion is my conclusion, and he's qualified to say it in ways I'm not, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not an astronomer. I have to rely on brainiacs like Sharon Gilbert to be able to state some of this stuff. For me, again, it began with what I think was a divine revelation. I didn't know. I would have never even known that this stuff was being disputed had that first not happened as a metaphysical experience, and I don't mean a New Age metaphysical experience, but Merville's findings basically are this, that the largest database in the world, more than all other databases on this subject matter in the world combined, concerning diameter, albedo, other properties of asteroids, their the way they map their trajectory. Approximately 164,000 asteroids is suffering from what he determined was intentionally manipulated information at worst. And inadequate analysis at best, with the net result being that the public is being kept in the dark regarding something very, very important, which I believe is exactly what we are talking about here with the space rock Apophis.
Oh, absolutely. I'm reading here that supposedly they used a different pi equation.
Yeah. Well, that's now another scientist and a mathematician by the name of Harry Lear. And in fact, right after Donald Trump was elected president, he wrote a letter to Donald Trump strongly encouraging him to require the NASA scientists and the NEOWISE team to reevaluate the pi calculations around Apophis. And once again, if he's correct, and his dispatch actually ends with, and I can't remember exactly the words, but basically he says, we're already out of time anyway, but just in case something could be done about this. He's begging them to cross-check the calculations because, in his opinion, there's a very strong chance that the Earth will be impacted by Apophis in 2029.
April 13th.
April. That's the other thing. Friday the
13th of April?
Yes.
Wow. Yes. This is startling to me because most of us have been taught growing up that the value of pi is a constant, 3.14159, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this gentleman says, no, there's a different value to pi, and that's the one that should be applied to these calculations, which means that all of these calculations, which are already based on data that's been manipulated by
He also mentioned a different value to the golden mean in his paper, so I'm not really sure where he's going
This
there,
is way above my...
The math was wrong.
Is what it comes... This sounds like the beginning of a very disturbing movie, like you'd see on the Sci-Fi Channel or something.
Well, do you remember, though, the problem that occurred a few years ago when instead of using metric calculations, they used the Royal Standard?
The Mars, yes, and a couple of the Mars landers crashed because the teams in the U.S., the American team was on Imperial and the European team was on metric. And so things like this happen, but sadly, when you're dealing with something that's, 20 million metric tons that's approaching the Earth at 28,000 miles per hour, it could have devastating consequences. We're talking about the book, The Wormwood Prophecy by Tom Horn, and our conversation continues after this. Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Joining me on the panel, Sharon K. Gilbert, as we talk about the new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a Cosmic Cover-Up of End-Time Proportions. Tom Horn is the author. Tom, if this information's been manipulated by those inside NASA, perhaps intentionally or unintentionally through using the wrong calculations or whatever, if we're basically, we really don't know what's coming at us, how does all of that then connect back together with the prophecy of the approaching falling star called Wormwood in Revelation chapter 8?
Well, it could be as simple as Apophis is biblical wormwood, and that people at NASA know about it. The book, by the way, The Wormwood Prophecy, is unusual in the sense that it is not fiction. It is a nonfiction work, but the very first chapter is a fictional narrative.
And again, speaking, as I did before the break, of a movie plot, the opening chapter reads like the beginning of a movie, something that we might have seen. There were some movies back within the last couple of decades of
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact, Armageddon being another.
So think of the narrative in the film Deep Impact.
Yes.
Where, if I remember the plot line, I think there's maybe a kid that discovers, that there is a space rock on a trajectory that could impact the Earth. And another scientist, I think, finds out about it too. I forget exactly. And he dies maybe in a car wreck. Am I getting my films mixed up?
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a long time since I saw it.
But the government finds out about it, and they're trying to cover it up. And they're trying to cover it up. Why?
Because they don't want the world to panic, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Mass panic, looting, what could require the imposition of martial law to keep law and order.
People getting in the way of constructing those sanctuary cities to save the elites. Yeah.
Right. So that's, you know, the movie plot, but this book opens with a narrative like that says they are aware, and, you know, between the ESA and NASA and whatever other space agencies, quietly behind the scene, they are working to try to figure out, is there a way to stop this asteroid? And they know that eventually it's going to become public knowledge. And then so all these other contingencies, how are we going to deal with it? You know, we're going to have to deploy the military on the streets of the United States and other places around the world. How are we going to deal with this circumstance? And then chapter 2, though, opens with, okay, chapter 1 is fiction. Mm-hmm. Or is it?
Or is it, yes.
Right? And if you thought that you could read chapter 1 and now sigh a breath of relief that it's only a narrative that isn't going to come to pass, the rest of this book is going to set in order how we believe that there is a cover-up at the highest order, including NASA, and we're not alone. There are experts, people that are mega intelligent, far more so than I am, right? And we're talking about qualified working scientists who are challenging, and I think that number is going to continue to grow. I thought it was interesting that here, just 3 weeks ago now, Robert Frost, he's a NASA scientist. He's a working scientist, right? And he goes on television, and he's not saying Apophis, but he is saying it is 100% certain that Earth is going to be destroyed by what might even be a planet-killing stone. And then later, people are asking about Apophis, and NASA puts out a statement in which they say, well, it could be that the only thing we're going to be able to do is pass out Bibles and tell people to pray. Why? Because the question was asked of Robert Frost, yes, but can't we stop these asteroids with nukes or something like that? And here's what he actually said in a, I forget, it was like in the UK, one of the UK, it was the Express. Yeah. On the Express, he says, no known weapon system could stop the mass because of the velocity at which it travels, an average of 12 miles per second. So, and then another scientist, also an NASA scientist, he said, we might have our ideas about how to stop something of this size all wrong anyway, because if it's that large, even if we successfully hit it with a series of nukes and maybe blew parts of it apart, the gravitational field around an object that big is so strong, it's just going to draw it back together again.
Exactly.
There might not really be an effective way for us to stop it anyway. And is this like soft disclosure of one of L.A. Marzulli's favorite phrases, but around a space rock?
Well, it seems that way, but you also had a NASA scientist visit you in Branson.
Yeah, so here's the thing. And by the way, his name, and you guys met him, and now we can't say his name at all.
No, we can't.
But his name was originally in the book, and some of the stuff that he was telling me, besides the other asteroid that has the song on it that I want to talk about maybe if we get time. But he had shared some stuff with me. I put it in the book. Then he winds up at our Branson conference, and he says, I have got to talk to you. So we go in the back room. We're all private back there. And I found out that this guy had been drawn before an adjudicator. He was being threatened not only with his job, and this guy's a 30-year veteran in the aerospace community with huge contracts with NASA, right? He's like one of the lead engineers on space flights and stuff like that. So this is not the janitor, right, in the building. And he tells me, my name cannot be mentioned at all. I've just came from being drawn in front of adjudicator. They are threatening me with some serious stuff. And I had the feeling, he didn't say this, but I had the feeling that losing his job was only one of the things that might have been hinted at, right? And so I had to take his name out of the book. The other thing that at some point, if I get a chance to talk about, but you guys would probably already assume this, he tells me, he says, NASA, yeah, it's like our National Space Agency, but he said there's actually 2 space agencies. And if you want to know where the really big dollars are being siphoned off, it isn't into the published budget, operating budgets at NASA.
Well, it wouldn't be. I mean, one of NASA's appointed jobs during the Obama administration was to spread the love of Islam.
Yeah. But again, that's, I'm sure, another cover story for what's actually going on behind the scenes.
To be.
Now, there are other space agencies around the world. There are 70, in fact, on the Earth, which I thought was really
70,
intriguing.
yeah.
And 13 with launch capability.
Oh,
Isn't
my
that
gosh.
curious?
That's so
Yeah. But the European Space Agency apparently is part of this, and I imagine they would share information back and forth with NASA. Why would the secret space agencies of the world, if you will, again, is it really all about keeping the public from mass panic, or is there some other aspect of this that needs to be explored?
Well, and I will tell you that there's also, and I can't prove any of this, but in the same way that we've learned recently that inside the Pentagon and other branches of our intelligence agencies and their studies of UFOs, where we've learned that there really was an interest in the paranormal as well. Are these demons? Are they angels? Is it God? And the further we move, the more we learn that was actually a significant part of the Pentagon's studies into what is UFOs. Well, it turns out that something about our asteroids also seems to have this whole metaphysical thing. And we're going to run out of time. When we come back, I want to talk about, what was it, Piece 67?
67P,
Oh, yes,
Comet
yes.
67P.
I want to talk about Comet 67P and some other things that my friend with his top secret security clearance at NASA shared with me. So I think there is something that's cosmological in the supernatural sense about concerns that they have at NASA and elsewhere. In fact, in the narrative, in the opening chapter 1, it includes people behind the scenes that also happen to believe in the Bible and they believe in prophecy. And they themselves see Wormwood as a trajectory that is going to hit Earth. But the question about, is it a space rock or is it something else?
Yes, yes.
We got to talk
That's
about
the
that in the
question.
next program.
That would be really interesting to know, because I know that that's something that you included in your fictional book, which I did the audio book for. By the way, if you write any more fiction, don't write so many characters with gravelly voices. That's really hard to do. But the Ahriman Gate included people behind the scenes who had a biblical perspective on things. We talked about that recently with the Fourth Watch Films production, Higher Entities.
Right.
About the Collins Elite. Do we think that perhaps there are those inside NASA or the ESA or other space agencies looking at this with a biblical perspective to try to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
I have reasons to believe that. But
Okay.
again, maybe we'll get into that in the next program.
Sure.
I just want to remind people very quickly, this is the biggest giveaway ever in the history of Skywatch Television. $900+ in free merchandise when you buy the Wormwood Prophecy book from us. Very limited time special offer. The only one, it's a mountain really, of books, DVDs, movies, just all kinds of audio series, all kinds of stuff. But the one thing that I want to point out is the collection of ebooks on this data library, 70 of our top-selling Defender books. This by itself is worth $700. And that's every day people are buying those books at Amazon for $10 a book. We're going to give you 70 of the top Defender. And if you have any kind of ebook reading device, whether it's Kindle, Nook,
iBooks,
iBook, whatever, these will read on those systems. And we're going to send this to you free. You keep it for yourself or get two. Give these away at Christmas time to anybody you know that loves reading ebooks. A collection of 70 of the all-time best-selling Defender books in, like I say.
Very appropriate number, 70.
70,
Yeah.
of course.
Yes, the
You
number
like
of
that?
completion,
I like
number
that.
of the full set, not one left out. So do take advantage of that, and don't miss the upcoming programs on Skywatch TV as we begin to look not just at the astrophysical aspect of Comet Apophis, asteroid Apophis, and what it might mean for the Earth, but also the prophetic implications. What are the connections between Apophis and Wormwood that John the Revelator saw and wrote in chapter 8 of his book? That's ahead in the coming weeks with Dr. Tom Horn and Sharon K. Gilbert. I'm Derek Gilbert. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.
NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end times proportions. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the largest giveaway of the year, the Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway. When you order Dr. Thomas Horn's new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, from the Skywatch TV store, you'll also receive on DVD the entire 4-part Skywatch TV series on the Wormwood Prophecy, featuring Dr. Thomas Horn and Derek and Sharon Gilbert. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the never-before-released Best of Defender Publishing ebook collection on data disc, featuring 70 of the most information-packed best-selling books in Defender history. These full-length works are in popular ebook formats, so you can read them on EPUB, PDF, Kindle, and other handheld electronic devices. Give this collection as the ultimate gift to somebody you know this holiday season, or take them with you wherever you go. Valued at over $700 all by itself. But that's not all. With the holidays just around the corner, now's your chance to save big and receive a massive collection of merchandise. Also included in the Wormwood Grand Giveaway is a gargantuan supply of brand new super quality overstock gift books, DVDs, audio sets, survival and organic living books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $900. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling. This is the largest giveaway of the year and will be available only while supplies last, so don't delay. The Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway, available now at skywatchtvstore.com. Order now or call 1-844-750-4985.
Angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology. Conspiracy. Discovery. Special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
Bible prophecy at times appears to mix almost with science fiction. Here's what I mean.
I intend to share undisclosed facts that are stranger and scarier than most people can comprehend, and it is going to shake the public to the bone. And yes, this involves a cover-up of the highest order by national space agencies, including NASA.
The asteroid is 100% certain to strike Earth, according to one space expert who says this is a matter of life and death.
You'd probably have millions of casualties.
Is a planet-killing asteroid a possibility? NASA has determined that the threat is real.
And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And many men died of the waters.
Chief technology experts and working scientists agree with me. But what's more concerning is that this was prophesied in the Bible for the end times.
Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Not science fiction, but Bible prophecy. We are talking about an event perhaps coming to the earth within the next decade. Joining me on the panel as we discuss a brand new book from Skywatch TV CEO Tom Horn, our co-host, my co-host of the weekly program from Skywatch TV, Sci Friday, and the author, co-author of the book Veneration, with yours truly, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie pie.
And the author of a book that is really going to make you think about what may be coming and the possible implications, not just for the earth, but for your family as well and where they place their hope. The book, The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end-time proportions. We welcome Tom Horn back to Skywatch TV.
Good to be
Tom?
here, and you said that she's your co-host.
Co-host of my life, actually.
Yeah,
yes.
of your life, but you forgot to mention your new program,
Unraveling.
Unraveling Revelation. That's
Absolutely.
that's partly what we're doing right now, right?
That is
we're
very true.
unraveling Revelation.
Bad host. Bad host.
But it's an important thing to do, and I know that there are folks who are watching this show. They've watched 2 episodes now, and they're probably wondering, how does this fit into God's timeline? It's in the book of Revelation. Is Wormwood, is Apophis actually Wormwood? Do you think that?
Right now, I say I do believe that. Now, I give God, is God's going to do whatever God wants to do. He's not going to do what Tom Horn thinks. But the way all of this came to me, and then my research leads me to believe that at a minimum, there is a cover-up. There is something that is happening that NASA does not want the world to know about. And according to some of the experts that we quoted on the very first program, the brainiacs, right? People that Sharon is up there in their stratosphere, they're charging NASA literally with obfuscation, with intentional efforts to cover up and to skew the data around Apophis and other near-Earth objects.
Some of the errors in calculation, and I'm no mathematician or astrophysicist, I just play one on TV, seem to be way too egregious to be accidental.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Do you think Donald Trump has been briefed on this?
Well, I do think Donald Trump's been briefed on this, and isn't it interesting that one of the first things he did was provide funding for what they're actually calling the newest branch of our military.
Right.
Right?
Branch.
The Space Force, and they're pouring tons of money in that. But again, look at all the budget increases to NASA, specifically for Earth defense forces to try to stop asteroids. All of this in just the last 2 or 3 years. And why now do you have people, even current working scientists at NASA, going on television, giving these interviews in which they're actually saying that, first of all, it's 100% certain that the Earth is going to be impacted by an asteroid, and depending on the size, we're not talking about small asteroids. In fact, during the writing of the Wormwood prophecy, in 1 month alone, there were 4 different asteroids, 2 or 3 that actually entered into the Earth's atmosphere and burnt up.
Wow.
One of them that came very close that they called a city killer, and in every case, they never even saw them coming.
This is something that, though, we've seen in biblical history, actually. There's some good scientific evidence just published within the last year of this recording that suggests that it was exactly something like this that took out the cities of Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities of the plain
Right.
Yes.
in the year in or about 1750 BC.
Right.
But more recently, it may have been responsible for what happened in Chicago during the fire.
Chicago during the fire, also the
Right.
Tunguska event.
Yes.
Yes.
Where something exploded in the air above Russia. But look at I forget how many miles and miles of huge forests, right, that went down in an instant. Of course, if we're talking about Apophis, this is far more larger, far more dangerous. In fact, in a minute, maybe we'll just literally walk through the book of Revelation and describe what is being discussed there.
Yes, and you, by the way, give some sense of the scale of this when you devote some time in the Wormwood prophecy to the Great Chicago Fire, which has always been blamed on Mrs. O'Leary's cow. I'm from Chicago. That's a story that we all hear as kids growing up. But most people aren't aware that at the same time and within hours of the Chicago Fire, fires that were even more deadly and devastating broke out in Wisconsin, in Michigan, and other places in
Almost
Canada.
simultaneously.
Right,
yes.
right. And so there are those who believe that this was the remnant of a comet that had broken up on a near pass of Jupiter sometime around the year 1845 and then impacted the Earth in 1871.
It was a periodic comet that was discovered in early 19th century, and it should have come around, and then it suddenly disappeared.
It missed the 1872 appointment, but we had this piece that apparently was redirected and slingshotted towards the Earth after its near pass.
Well, and so the idea, in the judgments against ancient Egypt, hail and fire falling from the sky, right? Maybe in the next program, we'll talk about how God uses these natural things, though, but to execute his judgment upon idolatry
That's
and
one of
paganism.
that's one of my favorite things about the book is that you have as in the days of Noah, but you also have an entire chapter as in the days of Pharaoh,
Right.
and it is very detailed, and I think you've really nailed it regarding the judgments against the gods there. And it's, I think, when Christ comes back, these lead-ups to his return, these are also judgments against the gods.
That's exactly right.
And this dovetails with research that we've been doing for Last Clash of the Titans, for Veneration, for other books that we've been producing here over the last couple of years, and how some of these natural events were actually given names by the Hebrews, by the ancient people around ancient Israel, and were worshipped and venerated as gods. For example, the god Apophis equated with Leviathan in the Bible, but then others who were translated in biblical times as hail, as lightning, as
Right.
plague, as pestilence. Those were the names of deities and demons that were venerated by the pagans around ancient Israel.
Right. Now, you said a moment ago, that during the Chicago fire, there is evidence now that, because they didn't have mass media, widespread media back then, that people didn't realize that this was happening across the planet, right, where these different fires were suddenly happening as a result of something impacting the earth. So here's what I think is interesting. The Wormwood prophecy is taken from the 8th chapter of the book of Revelation. Now, notice this. If you were to ask a scientist to explain these verses in Revelation chapter 8 and what they seem to be detecting, the very details. In fact, what's interesting is in exactly the same order as an asteroid breaking apart and entering into the earth is how these verses are laid out. They do very much seem to be describing an event that could be understood in terms of science. So first of all, Revelation, note these verses in their exact original order. Verses 6 and 7. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Now watch what happens. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees were burned up, and the green grass was burned up. Revelation 8, 6 through 7. So this literally, if you asked an astronomer what that is, he'd be saying, look back at the Chicago fire. This is this is the first part of a very large asteroid, the stuff that's caught, or it's part of it breaking up as it's entering into the Earth's atmosphere and splintering out and hitting the Earth. And of course, aside from the obvious connection to the 7th plague of the Exodus, the hell and fire, scorching, setting fields afire, all of that on impact with our atmosphere. Look at now what the very next verse in the same order says. And the next 2 verses. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. Of course, something huge impacting the seas, creating these hundreds of feet tall tsunamis, wiping out all of the ships and life that are in the sea. Now, this could be a binary object where you have 2 very large kind of asteroid bodies that are caught in their collective gravitational field.
Isn't Apophis binary?
Well, I think Apophis has a very large piece that is coming with it, right?
Yeah.
So you have potentially one of them enters the atmosphere first, right? Impacts the sea. Now watch what the very next verse. So again, these are all in order. And an astronomer would say this is very much describing the Earth being impacted by a binary asteroid or a very large asteroid that breaks apart, and one part of it hits one part of the Earth and then the other. So here is the very next verses, 10 through 11. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And by the way, I would describe a very large asteroid coming towards the Earth and burning in our atmosphere as a mountain.
Yes,
And this is exactly the way the ancients would have seen this, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon a third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So the third trumpet then details the second part of this binary object. One of them hits the sea, one of them may hit part of the sea. It certainly affects the water systems, the tributaries that are upon the earth. And of course, in the book, I go into everything that would happen. What would then happen following all of the aerosol that would be, the heat that would be generated, that would enter into the atmosphere. Maybe we can talk about that more in a moment. Finally, look at the conclusion in Revelation 8:12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for the third part of it, and the night likewise. Revelation 8:12. And once again, an astronomer would tell you that if object that large impacted the earth and the seas, what would happen? You would have aerosol rising up. You would have dust rising up into the heavens that would blacken out the sky in fact, what's interesting is when I was reading what some scientists believe happened at the Great Flood, I was surprised. They literally described the earth and the stars and all being darkened for 3 to 5 days, right? As a result of what they believe impacted the earth in that time. So this text literally is a line-by-line description of what will happen if an asteroid impacts the Earth in 2029. Each part and piece of it. And how could that be described by people living at a time when we have no record that they were eyewitnesses to such an event?
It's a natural description, but it could be spiritual, and that's what we need to talk about.
Exactly. So we're going to take a break, tell you how to get the copy of the new book, The Wormwood Prophecy by Tom Horn. Also, the biggest giveaway in Skywatch TV's history, an entire library for you in digital form. And when we come back, we'll talk about the prophetic implications, the spiritual aspect of the Wormwood prophecy. What did John know and when did he know it? That's ahead on Skywatch TV. Welcome back to Skywatch TV. Remember, we make these programs available for you to carry around with you. This might be a great way to share information like this with skeptical friends. We have a free mobile app that works on iOS devices, so you can download it to your iPhone, your iPad, Android devices as well. We don't leave them out, so Google tablets, Google phones, whatever. Share the app with your friends. Say, look, don't let me try to explain it. Here, let this crazy Tom Horn explain this to you, because he might be onto something here. A friend of ours from Australia has tried this. It's a way to share some of this cutting-edge information and kind of bypass some of the skepticism that your friends may have. You'll find information on how to download the free mobile app and where at skywatchtv.com. The book is The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end-time proportions. We're talking about the Wormwood Prophecy, Revelation chapter 8, beginning at verse 8. There are aspects to this, though, that track with what the apostles and the prophets knew about the pagan religions around ancient Israel. This prophecy, by the way, in Revelation 8, tracks the darkening of the sun, the moon, and the stars, tracks with revelations in Joel chapter 3, verse 15, Amos chapter 8, verse 9. Also, the plague of darkness that fell upon Egypt, that's in Exodus 10, verses 21 through 23. But as we look at the name of the star. I mean, first of all, we need to remember that stars in the Old Testament were often used as symbols of the angelic realm, the host of heaven.
And in the book of Revelation, they're clearly angels because the letters are addressed to the angels of the churches in. And he holds the 7 stars in his hands. Right.
And this is something we'll be talking about more. One of the programs, by the way, you can get on that mobile app is Unraveling Revelation, which Sharon and I co-host. I want to point out something in verse 8, and then I want you to explain why the name Wormwood is really important. In verse 8, something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. This isn't well known because most of us don't know what the religion of ancient Mesopotamia was, but the chief deity of their pantheon prior to the rise of Babylon and the ascension of Marduk as the chief god of the Babylonian pantheon was a god called Enlil. And Enlil, who replaced the sky god as the chief of the pantheon. So Enlil was to be equated with Kronos of the Greeks and Saturn of the Romans. Enlil was literally called the Great Mountain. In fact, the place where his temple was located, his holy city, was the city of Nippur, which was sometimes transliterated into English as Nibru, which is where this New Age stuff about Nibiru came to be. Anyway, that's where the Mesopotamian divine council met at his temple, which is called the Ik-Kur, which means house of the mountain. There's a prophecy in the Old Testament where Zechariah condemns the great mountain. And I think it's directed at that entity. So this great mountain, perhaps referred to at least in an oblique manner by John here.
But we also have the sun and the moon. Those are both entities.
Entities as well.
And seen.
And the host of heaven, these other entities that were venerated, worshipped by the ancient Israelites, violation of God's command to Moses.
And then
but
we have the
name
star coming
Wormwood. What is Wormwood? Why is that significant?
The Bible verse says the name of the star is Artemisia.
Because that's the name of the plant,
Of a plant
wormwood.
that we call wormwood, and in fact, absinthe, the drink, is based on that. It's hard to say what the exact history of that plant being named Artemisia is, sort of chicken and egg, which came first. But Artemis is the name of a goddess who is worshipped in Greece.
In Ephesus.
But here's the thing: she had a direct correlation with the island of Patmos, which is where John saw this
was
vision.
given the revelation.
She was told there's an island sunk beneath the waves, and so she went to her brother Apollo and said, I would like to raise this island up. Can we get our dad Zeus to help us with this? I don't think he will do it just for me. Will you go with me? So the two of them, Artemis and Apollo, go to Zeus, and they ask him to sort of work with Poseidon and bring the island up. The island existed in their mythology because of Artemis, and that's why she had a temple there.
Artemis and Apollo were twins.
Yes, they were twins. And Artemis, there are a lot of things about her. She's a war goddess. She's very similar to Inanna in a lot of ways. So to have this star falling from heaven, so from heaven we get one twin. From coming up from beneath the earth is the other twin, Apollo.
Well, and that's because Apollo in the Greek mythology, and going back his equivalent gods in the Amorite and the Sumerian texts were Resheph and Apollo. They were all considered, Resheph and Nergal, rather. They were the gatekeepers of the underworld.
Exactly.
The ones who held the key to the underworld.
abyss.
Well, and it's interesting as you're talking about all of this, especially the etymology of the terms here. You know, in the King James you read, and the waters became bitter. Scholars like Mike Heiser look at that, and he looks back. He says, if you would ask a first century, student of the Scripture, a theologian, a scholar, whatever, what is it talking about when it mentions wormwood? And they more likely would have referred to it, a fallen star coming down from heaven, as an angelic entity, an angel of judgment, and in this case, an angel of famine, which is connected to all this. The language there is rich with meaning about how do the waters become bitter. Now,
Apollo was a plague god as well.
Exactly.
Apollo, Nergal, Resheph, plague gods who spread with their fiery arrows disease.
Were sometimes seen arcing in the sky like a comet.
Right, exactly.
And that was my point in this book, is I think it's both. I think that you could have a large physical rock, a space rock like Apophis, but it's still an agent that is connected to a fallen angel that brings famine and bitterness and all that upon the earth. So, not being the scholars and historians that you are, when I'm reading this, I'm looking and in my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, the size of Apophis impacts the earth. I even talked, by the way, to a couple of people that had worked on reports for the U.S. government, impact specialists, talking about, if you take a certain size rock, what would it take to be able to fulfill what we're seeing here in the book of Revelation? But I think the impact is only part of it. How do you make the waters bitter? So when I first started thinking about this, I'm thinking, okay, it impacts, a specific place in the ocean. There's tidal wave activity, there's tsunamis. It's all back flushing into tributaries that somehow affect the waters. But then it dawned on me one day, this might be something more like the Andromeda strain. And I know we're going to run out of time, but when we open the very next and last program, I really want Sharon to explain to me and others like me who really have a hard time wrapping our mind around, how could something fall from space carrying a deadly microorganism? And then it becomes an aerosol, maybe it spreads like a flu virus, but how does that actually happen? Because a space rock is coming close to the sun, so you're talking about super hot temperatures, but other parts of space, degrees way below zero. How does something survive on an object like that? And is that scientifically feasible? I want to talk about that. Again, these weeks are just flying by us here, and we only have one more to go. You want to get this offer, not just because I think the Wormwood Prophecy is one of the most important books by me or anybody else that's been published in a while, and I'm not saying that with false pride, but this is also the biggest giveaway ever, not just of 2019, ever in the history of Skywatch TV. Over $900 in products that we are giving away, books, movies, DVDs, audio sets, all kinds of stuff. But this really is the crown jewel. A data collection of over 70 of our best-selling Defender Publishing books on Kindle, Nook, EPUB, whatever kind of digital reader you use. This is the library of all libraries. It's valued at over $700. That's what these books actually sell for at Amazon every day. We're giving it to you for free. A great Christmas gift for you, a great Christmas gift for anybody that's in your family or a friend that likes reading ebooks. Get them this data library. It's by itself worth $700, and we're giving it away free in this giveaway for a very limited time.
The book is The Wormwood Prophecy by Dr. Tom Horn, NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end-time proportions. It would be easy to categorize this book and just sort of dismiss it as alarmism, but the Bible says something like this is going to happen. It appears that there are things in the sky that NASA either doesn't know how to calculate their trajectory, or they are deliberately obfuscating the trajectories of these objects, and there are some very, very knowledgeable scholars who believe that that is the case. But ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever comes to the earth is only what God is going to allow. We bring this to you to be watchmen, faithful watchmen, and to encourage you not only to prepare, but to take advantage of the time while you have, to share the gospel and make disciples of all nations while we still have time, as we don't know when this will be. Another program coming, don't miss next week here with Tom Horn, Sharon K. Gilbert. I'm Derek Gilbert, and we thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.
NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end times proportions. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the largest giveaway of the year, the Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway. When you order Dr. Thomas Horn's new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, from the Skywatch TV store, you'll also receive on DVD the entire 4-part Skywatch TV series on the Wormwood Prophecy, featuring Dr. Thomas Horn and Derek and Sharon Gilbert. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the never-before-released Best of Defender Publishing ebook collection on data disc, featuring 70 of the most information-packed, best-selling books in Defender history. These full-length works are in popular ebook formats, so you can read them on EPUB, PDF, Kindle, and other handheld electronic devices. Give this collection as the ultimate gift to somebody you know this holiday season, or take them with you wherever you go. Valued at over $700 all by itself. But that's not all. With the holidays just around the corner, now's your chance to save big and receive a massive collection of merchandise. Also included in the Wormwood Grand Giveaway is a gargantuan supply of brand new super quality overstock gift books, DVDs, audio sets, survival and organic living books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $900. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling. This is the largest giveaway of the year and will be available only while supplies last, so don't delay. The Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway, available now at skywatchtvstore.com. Order now or call 1-844-750-4985.
Angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology. Conspiracy. discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
The Apostle John wrote that at some point in the future, something would fall from heaven and turn the waters of the earth bitter. Watch this.
I intend to share undisclosed facts that are stranger and scarier than most people can comprehend, and it is going to shake the public to the bone. And yes, this involves a cover-up of the highest order by national space agencies, including NASA.
The asteroid is 100% certain to strike Earth, according to one space expert who says this is a matter of life and death.
You'd probably have millions of casualties.
Is a planet-killing asteroid a possibility? NASA has determined that the threat is real.
And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And many men died of the waters.
Chief technology experts and working scientists agree with me. But what's more concerning is that this was prophesied in the Bible for the end times.
Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Joining me on the panel for the fourth of four discussions on a brand new book, the co-host of our weekly program, Sci Friday, available from Skywatch TV at skywatchtv.com, and the co-author of my latest book, Veneration, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, sweetie.
Should introduce you as the co-host of my life. That's actually more appropriate.
You're mine, too.
But also the co-host of our program, Unraveling Revelation, as our guest pointed out. His new book is, well, it's sobering, but also hopeful. And we'll talk about that before the end of this program. The book, The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a Cosmic Cover-Up of End-Time Proportions. We welcome Dr. Tom Horn back to Skywatch.
Good to be
TV.
here. And I almost had to say, you guys knock it off.
We have a license.
We do.
The aspect of this Wormwood prophecy that we hadn't discussed yet, we kind of touched on it toward the end of last week's program, and this really gets into your wheelhouse, Sharon, is how the waters would be made bitter and many people would die from the waters when wormwood, this star or something, strikes the Earth. We would assume that things floating around in outer space, especially in the vacuum of space, subjected to the heat of the sun as it orbits, would be more or less sterile. Why would that not be true?
Well, first of all, that's assuming that the bitterness is caused by some kind of a biological infection. It could be that there are heavy metals or something on the rock itself that actually poison the water, and that brings to the bitterness. Also, it could be that they cause something that is buried beneath the ocean in the sediment or in the lakes and rivers to come up, an overturning. We saw this in Africa when one of the lakes there, Victoria, one of the lakes had suffered an overturning, and it caused the locals it turned the water red, caused the locals to become very ill. They got sores all over their bodies. It was like the book of Revelation was taking place in that African country. So it could be that, or it could actually be a virus inside a bacterium, which is an extremophile on the rock itself. So it actually brings a pathogen with it.
Yeah, I mean, so we like the old 1969 movie, or based on the book by Michael Crichton, the Andromeda Strain.
The Andromeda Strain,
right?
exactly.
If people want to kind of imagine that, in the Andromeda Strain, the idea is they actually intentionally send like a satellite or something up into space to collect upper atmosphere, pathogens that they can turn into bioweapons. That's the idea. But it falls to the earth, and then all of a sudden everybody in Piedmont, Arizona is dead, and they're trying to figure out what's happening, and they go there and they realize that it's what you say. It's a microorganism. It's got a virus inside of it. And it instantly causes blood clotting.
Oh, it's so clotting it just turns to dust.
Yeah, it just turns to dust. But you know, at the time, Crichton, you know, got some praise from scientists who said, okay, you know, it may not ever happen, but at least it's based on the possibilities of real science. And so that got my mind to thinking, and that's when I came to you. Remember, I sent you an email.
You did.
I said, would this really work this way? And you said yes, and I went to you because you're the one that, you know, has the studies and degrees, whatever, in biology. Francis Crick and all those people, you know, your alma mater.
It was James Watson.
Excuse me, Watson.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Crick too?
No, Crick didn't go to IU, but Watson did.
I got you. But anyway.
So did Sherlock Holmes.
But that was when, so, you know, because as I'm studying and doing this research, I'm thinking, okay, how difficult would it be to disturb enough potable waters around the world that people are just drinking to cause a great number of people to die? But then it was that aha moment, wait, according to what I've read about this impact, it's going to create an aerosol. And if there's something on this asteroid, an alien microorganism, right, then it would be like the spreading of a flu virus. I remember, by the way, years ago, I was in McMinnville, Oregon, when Mount St. Helens exploded. And I was inside a building, and people came in and they said, hey, Mount St. Helens just exploded, because we expected it to, right? And I went out into the parking lot, and it literally looked like a nuclear warhead had gone off in the distance, the whole full funneling cloud-like looking thing. I went home, but it was the next morning when I came out, and the sun and the moon had been darkened, and you could not see the sky real early in the morning. It was completely black. Furthermore, ash was raining down from the sky, and that happened for hundreds and hundreds of, even overseas, people had that ash from Mount St. Helens that was coming down onto the earth. And that would be something similar, I think, to this event.
Absolutely. Also, in the year 536 AD, something is thought to have hit the planet. The diaries from China and Europe record dragons fighting in the sky. It hit, and there was a darkening of the sun, and Justinian's plague began.
We did a recent program on Sci-Friday about that, which is available, by the way, at skywatchtv.com.
Yes, so it was thought that a comet had hit the Earth.
And that's it gets back to the description of Apophis as a dragon. The Egyptians believed he was a chaos dragon, equated with other ancient Mesopotamian and Near Eastern entities like Leviathan, Tiamat, and so on. But as Apophis approaches the Earth, as a comet, you saw in a description of it as a sort of undulating, like a serpent, weaving its way through the heavens toward the planet, which raises the question again we discussed earlier: why did the NASA scientists who only discovered this in 2004 decide to give it that particular name instead of something a little, cuddlier?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think there is a connection here to idolatry and paganism. We see that, like you say, I dedicated a whole chapter, as it was in the days of Pharaoh, showing where each one of those were judgments against particular gods. We believe, well, Zephaniah says that when the Lord will be terrible, right, unto the gods. When the Lord returns, it is a war against supernaturalism, against supernatural agents. Now, some people say, well, based on your program so far, which is it? Is it an asteroid or is it an angel? But I think it's both. And note what it's, Revelation chapter 8, but look at how Revelation chapter 9 opens up. It says, and the fifth angel sounded. Now, we've talked about the first four already, right? The fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star. So first of all, here's this term, right? A star. I saw a star fall from heaven. That sounds more like Wormwood, right? Unto the earth. But then it says this, and to him.
Yes.
Right? So now this is a him. Was given the key of the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened. So once again, you have this playing out where he's referred to as a star, like the ancients would, and why some of the early church fathers thought Wormwood was probably a star because of how the ancients thought of the gods and everything. They thought they saw the stars as the gods.
That's correct.
Playing out in these different contests, right? But he's doing two things here. He's got a key. So it is an angel, but he also has an instrument, right, that is part of judgment. And that's why I think that Wormwood is very likely both. It could be Apophis striking the earth in 2029, but also as an instrument of judgment that connects it then to a fallen angel.
And that's really interesting, too, because the translation in Revelation 9:1, a star fallen from heaven. Some other translations in the more modern, like the Net translation, New English, will render it, I saw a star that had fallen from heaven. So this is not another star separately necessarily. This could be the same one referred to back in Revelation 8. This could be Wormwood.
Apollo.
Apollo, right.
Yes, so we've got Artemis and Apollo. Just so people have an idea from how you see the timeline playing out. The bowl judgments begin with the seventh trumpet. So are the bowl judgments the wrath portion of the Revelation?
Well, I'm not smart enough but what I can tell you is based on what smart people, right, and this would include Gary Stearman, other friends of our ministry, they say that all of those are happening starting in the mid period of the tribulation. So if you're a dispensationalist, this is 3.5 years in to a great tribulation period. Now, what does that mean for people who have different points of view about raptures? Assume only for a moment, and I'm not setting any dates here, but assume for a moment that Apophis impacts the earth Friday the 13th, 2029, right? If that is the middle of the tribulation period, what would that mean for a pre-tribulation rapture believer? You got to back up 3.5 years. So now you're somewhere in 2025-ish, somewhere around that time. By that time, a pre-tribulation rapture will have needed to occur. That's 6 years from right now, from today, when we're doing this show.
Around the corner, yes.
If you're a pre-wrath believer, then it's 2029, right? And or sometime before then.
Right.
If you're a post-trib believer, then it's another 3.5 years beyond that. So this is really something for you to study and think about based on your own eschatology. If Tom Horn is right, if Apophis is biblical wormwood, think of what that means in terms of the imminence of a rapture, but also in terms of the second coming of Jesus Christ. There is a part of this book that I hope people can understand. We don't want to be fear mongers here. We don't want people to be terrified, but we do want you to be informed and aware that there are real scientific reasons even to believe that the earth could be under threat, a serious threat, by the year 2029. And in my worldview, that has serious prophetic implications. But what might happen? I know we're going to go to a break, so when we go to the break, when we come back from the break, let's talk about maybe what might happen if indeed Apophis turns out to be on a trajectory to impact the world.
Good.
Yeah, and I just want to point out here, well, I'll share this after the break. This is what we call in the business a tease, how this might connect prophetically to a major Jewish festival, one of the feasts of the Lord, the big one in 2025. That's ahead on Skywatch TV. Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert, sitting alongside Sharon K. Gilbert and the author of the book that's been the discussion, the point of discussion these last 4 weeks. The book, The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a Cosmic Cover-Up of End-Time Proportions, Dr. Thomas Horn. Tom, you mentioned 3.5 years, backing up, if we go and take this impact as the midpoint of the 7-year period. If you back up 3.5 years from that, you wind up in the fall of 2025. And I just want to point out, not date setting, just something to consider as a bit of information, that the Feast of Tabernacles falls between October 7th and 13th of 2025. Add 3 years and 6 months, and you're right at April 13th of 2029.
You know, also, if Apophis is going to be coming and striking the earth, we'll probably see it for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
This could be a time of great revival.
This is my point. Yeah. I really believe,
Yes.
well, what's going to happen? What if, NASA, they're warming us up right now by having their astronomers out there saying it's one of them said 100% chance. He didn't say which asteroid, he didn't name one, but 100% this is going to happen. And he's talking about a major asteroid, not like the little one that burned up, over Russia a few years ago, but something that could literally wipe out a great deal of life on Earth, saying it is going to happen. It's 100% certain. There's no way to escape it. We have no technology whatsoever. And if you think that we're going to send Bruce Willis up there in a spaceship with some atomic bombs to blow it up, you're crazy.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to be able to stop it.
Too big, too fast.
Yeah. So let's say that between now and a few years from now, we become aware. One way or the other. Somebody leaks, speaking of whistleblowers, right, which we're hearing so much about right now, a whistleblower comes out and says, yeah, Tom Horn, that book, it's all right. This is going to happen. Probably wouldn't mention me, though. But this is going to happen. And now what? There's no way to escape it. In fact, he literally said, the only thing we'll be able to do is hand out Bibles and tell you to pray.
Amen.
But seriously, though, think about this. The world will literally shut down. Like Joe said, in between programs, nobody's going to be buying tickets to Disneyland.
Right.
But think of the side of this that means the number of people that will be on their knees praying who do not pray. Even atheists are going to get religion
Yes.
if we find that this is going to happen. We could have a terrific revival. And then this could happen. People are crying out to God, and somehow God diverts the asteroid Apophis. It impacts something large. It's got literally tens of thousands of miles that it has to travel now over the next decade or near decade. It runs into something, it hits space debris or whatever, or it's simply just a miracle of God, right? That it is diverted. Then what happens is a great deal of the world will be giving thanks to God that he saved us from this impending catastrophe. So it could be something that actually turns out to give glory to God and is key to a revival and an awakening.
Well, you've said many times on this program and others that you believe there's another great awakening coming. This may actually be the instigator.
It really could.
This is part of our calling. I mean, those of us who believe in the rapture, regardless of where we put the timing, it is not an escape hatch. It's not a mandate to just sit back and wait for God to call us out of here. This should energize us to get out there and preach and teach and share the hope that we have in Christ Jesus. Because regardless of what comes on this earth, Jesus warned his followers 2,000 years ago, you're going to suffer tribulation. You're not going to have an easy path. This is not a way to be popular, win friends, and influence people. But there is a reward coming. And as Paul wrote, the glory that is to come will make the tribulation between now and then seem as nothing. So while this indicates we may be in for a really, what's the Betty Davis movie where she says it's going to buckle up?
It's going to be a bumpy night.
Yeah, we may be in for a bumpy night here over the next 6 years, 10 years, what have you. But ultimately, regardless of what happens, we know that the end is going to be glorious.
It's going to be glorious, and the other thing to keep in mind that if Apophis is biblical wormwood, it is not intended against those who belong to God.
We are not appointed unto
We
wrath.
are not appointed, pray that you would be counted worthy to escape all those things that are going to come upon the earth to try them that dwell upon the earth. The other thing here I read a moment ago from chapter 9 about this, the angel that with the key to the bottomless pit. If you read that entire chapter, it's very interesting because when it gets to verse 21, notice what it says. It's this judgment is coming upon the people that are on the earth. Notice what it says, but they repented not. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, pharmakia, right? Nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. So again, this text is very revealing in that it's pointing back to his judgment against these gods, against paganism, against idolatry. They did, even with all this, they did not repent of their efforts, their pharmakeia, their efforts to open a doorway, to put themselves into contact with those demon gods of antiquity.
Well, that's another parallel with the "As in the Days of Pharaoh" section of your book, that Pharaoh's heart was hardened over and over. No matter what happened, he just got angry. And he was seeing his own gods, the ones he trusted in, taken down one by one by one, and yet he didn't turn to Yahweh.
Right.
And I think it's so interesting as we look at the punishments coming on the earth in Revelation 9, led by the things from the abyss, the Titans, the Watchers of Genesis 6, where they've been confined, that they're given 5 months to torment those without the seal of God on their foreheads.
And that never used to make any sense, but just recently on Unraveling Revelation, you revealed something that just caught your eye when we were reading it.
Genesis chapter 8, verses 3 and 4. At the end of 150 days, the waters had abated, and in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, which, by the way, coincides with the later Feast of Tabernacles.
Yes, it does. It does.
The waters had abated, and the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. 150 days on a lunar 30-day calendar. 5 months. It's another reversal. God saying, okay, you're getting out, you'll have 5 months, but only on those people who are not under my protection.
Exactly.
So just as the Watchers, the Titans of Greek myth, had 5 months to watch while their children were destroyed, they will have 5 months to torment the children of Eve.
Now, this may really be out there. It's also in the book, The Wormwood Prophecy, and since we've got a couple of minutes, I'm only going to let you know that in this book, you're also going to find out about something else. Those pagan gods that live up there somewhere in space, the prince of the powers of the air, right? Did they send a message to
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
what is coming? Yeah, so, the European Space Agency, Rosetta mission, they landed the probe Philae, right, on what they called Comet 67P, but it was broadcasting a sound. They call it a song, right? I got the original file to that song, and I wondered, what was it, the movie Contact, where hidden within a particular sound is actually a code, right? A set of details. And once they decipher it and they figure it out, it shows them how to build a ship so they can go up and meet their alien gods or whatever. That's a movie, obviously. It didn't really happen.
Right.
No.
But I was very curious, and I assume it's impossible. There's no such thing that there is going to be any kind of synthetic something in this tone. But you know me, curious Tom. So I got a hold of Chuck Misler. I said, Chuck, do you know anybody in the intelligence communities, whatever, that have programs, right, that look for things that are hidden in sound waves and all that? And he told me about he said there's a guy, he's certified genius. Long story short, he gave me his name. He's really old. I contacted him. Didn't hear anything from him for weeks. And he was the only one I sent the sound wave to. And I didn't tell him where it came from. I just said, can you put this in your program? Tell me if you see anything here, like, a repeating pattern, a mathematical oddity, something. Never heard from him for weeks. Finally emails me and he says, I haven't had a chance to work on this yet, but I want to ask you a question. Has anybody else reported to you that as they're listening to this sound wave, they become physically ill?
Oh.
And I emailed back and said, no, because you're the only one I sent it to. And then he died.
Wow.
And I never did get my answer. But on the first program, where we were referring to my friend with top security clearance in the aerospace community, I also sent it to him and another guy that works with him. Again, we're going to run out of time. Let me just tell you what they sent me actually a paper that completely analyzed this tone. But here's what he said. One reads about the song being the effective result of random or manifold complex magnetic field interactions. Here's the interesting part. But the signal indicates something more than noise and a pure random process. The speculation of magnetic field interaction producing this type of signal modulation defies ordinary experiences of physics. So both him and his partner, lead engineers that work with NASA, provided a paper back to me saying there is something highly unusual going on with this, and there are signatures here. And they even referred to it as message in a bottle.
Cosmic message in a bottle. Right. Well, you read all about that in the brand new book by Dr. Tom Horn, The Wormwood Prophecy, NASA, Donald Trump, and a Cosmic Cover-Up of End Time Proportions. But again, we want to emphasize that anything connected to end times prophecy is not intended to make us afraid. It should energize us to fulfill the great commission that Jesus gave to his apostles and disciples, to make disciples of all nations, to preach while we still have daylight. That is the takeaway from all of this. Bible prophecy is 100% guaranteed. It will come true someday. But if you are saved by grace through faith in Jesus Christ, you need not be afraid. Get on the lifeboat and work to get as many of your friends and family members there as well.
Amen.
With Dr. Tom Horn and Sharon K. Gilbert. I'm Derek Gilbert. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.
NASA, Donald Trump, and a cosmic cover-up of end times proportions. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the largest giveaway of the year, the Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway. When you order Dr. Thomas Horn's new book, The Wormwood Prophecy, from the Skywatch TV store, you'll also receive on DVD the entire 4-part Skywatch TV series on the Wormwood Prophecy, featuring Dr. Thomas Horn and Derek and Sharon Gilbert. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the never-before-released Best of Defender Publishing ebook collection on data disc, featuring 70 of the most information-packed, best-selling books in Defender history. These full-length works are in popular ebook formats, so you can read them on EPUB, PDF, Kindle, and other handheld electronic devices. Give this collection as the ultimate gift to somebody you know this holiday season, or take them with you wherever you go. Valued at over $700 all by itself. But that's not all. With the holidays just around the corner, now's your chance to save big and receive a massive collection of merchandise. Also included in the Wormwood Grand Giveaway is a gargantuan supply of brand new super quality overstock gift books, DVDs, audio sets, survival and organic living books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, these items hold a retail value of over $900. Yours now for your donation of only $35 plus shipping and handling. This is the largest giveaway of the year and will be available only while supplies last, so don't delay. The Project Wormwood Grand Giveaway, available now at skywatchtvstore.com. Order now or call 1-844-750-4985.